what it not only means for Ducks coverage, but just for people like me who has already subscribed to The Athletic before, and now you're getting all this Ducks content coming out.
No, it's amazing. I mean, I know that people were kind of critical of Eric Stevens and his writings with the Orange County Register, but you have to understand, like, he can only say so much in his articles, and he's required to do certain things for the Register. Now, the Athletic is just going to give him an open forum to say whatever he wants to cover, and he can be critical. So I think we're going to get a lot more content, a lot more juicier things coming out of Anaheim, and we're really going to see, what true Ducks coverage looks like.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, they've been great so far. And Eric Stevens has been, I think he's only Ducks when he's at the Athletic, but I know Josh Cooper and Lee Stillman do Kings and Ducks. But even then, they've been putting out some very good Ducks articles. I mean, I expected mostly Kings stuff because from my limited knowledge, that's what they've covered mostly before. But Josh Cooper's put out some great Ducks articles. Lisa Dillman's put out a couple great Ducks articles. And having three dedicated writers who are going to consistently put out content, and then of course Eric Stevens is going to be the spearhead to that, where his content's only going to be Duck stuff. I mean, that's great. I've loved everything that they put out so far. I know we're working on hopefully having a couple of them on the show. We're in the works on that, so hopefully that can work out and we can kind of pick their brains about that decision and everything down the road. But it's been excellent, just reading the articles that they've had so far, and now I can use my subscription that much more, and it's worth. I mean, it was already worth it before, but now it's like I can actually read articles kind of consistent basis about the Ducks.
No, for sure. I mean, I used to go to Yahoo all the time because I like some of Lambert's stuff and Wyshynski. But now that Wyshynski's over at ESPN, I kind of just follow him there. And then it's The Athletic. And that's, I mean, kind of it. I go to Sportsnet for some things. But, I mean, like if I ever want to catch like a Dmitry Filipovich article or something like that, where, he does deep dives into analytics and those things. So I like that. But, I mean, The Athletic's the place to be. Kind of shifting gears back, Eddie, I got to ask you. So in the crazy world that you and I are fabricating here, and Bob Murray's able to move a Corey Perry, and to be honest, you can't package that guy with a Nick Ritchie. I mean, you can't get rid of two things that are underperforming and get back this magical piece. Yeah. So the idea that that Jakob Silfverberg would be the person that's packaged in there makes a lot of sense. So with that hole created, let's say they get back some minor assets, picks, and maybe a couple of prospects or whatever that turns out to be, maybe a bottom six roster player, or maybe they trade a bad contract that's short term, whatever. Looking at the higher end of players, and I know that a couple of them, or one of them at least, has a no move clause, but Pacioretty, Wayne Simmons, Jeff Skinner, and then Artemi Panarin is the one that's kind of popped up on radar recently about him, and the Blue Jackets not really seeing eye to eye, right? I mean, they're not putting together any sort of extension. Who do you think is most likely, and then who would you rather have? So give the one, if we had to pick this fantasy world together, give me an answer for each.
Yeah, I mean it's tough. I agree with the fact that Perry would be a separate deal, and then to get any one of these guys, I'm not going to say it's not contingent on Perry getting moved. If he does or he doesn't, I think you still have to package Silfverberg for some cap relief, and I think that's a very likely option because Silfverberg is a UFA at the end of next season. He's likely going to get some sort of raise. So if you look at these four guys, I mean, I think the one everybody would want would be Artemi Panarin, but the price for him would be insane. He also has to sign a deal at the end of next season, which is going to be a very pricey deal, probably around $7-8 million at least, because he's an 80-point guy. So you'd be paying for about one season of Artemi Panarin, and what does that end up being worth? Well, I mean, it all depends. I mean, Columbus isn't in the best place for leverage at this point. You're selling a rental for one season, and you might not get back as much in return. So if the Ducks could swing that package to Silfverberg and some picks prospects around that, depending on what it is, and maybe bring in, if you really want a year of Artemi Panarin and you think that's what's going to get you over the hump, that could be an option. But I think the Ducks, their main need is goal scoring. I think we all can agree on that. And you look at these last three guys coming up. Pacioretty's, I think, a 5-time 30-goal scorer. Skinner and Simmons always hit around 20. I think those three guys are what they should be looking at. My personal favorite, which probably won't go down well with a lot of people, is actually Wayne Simmons. I think he's almost exactly what the Ducks need and won't cost as much likely as a guy like Max Pacioretty would. Simmons is great on the power play. He essentially does what Corey Perry used to do on the power play, where he goes to the front of the net, wreaks havoc, and he's one of the best players in the league at doing that. And he gets a lot of power play goals because of that. So not only does he come in and help your top six scoring in general, but he comes in and helps your power play scoring and is a real threat there. But Pacioretty and Skinner are no slouches either. I mean, Pacioretty was rumored to be something that was going down at the deadline and ended up not happening. But he's a guy that comes in, you slot in right on that either that top line with Ryan Getzlaf and Rickard Rakell maybe, or you slot him down on a line if Kessler's there or if Henrique's there. I mean, there's a lot of options. So that's a guy you could bring in. And then Jeff Skinner. I mean, Carolina already made the biggest trade of the offseason so far. And Skinner and Falk are still guys that could be rumored to be moved out there. And Skinner, I think he carries the biggest cap hit of the two if you compare him with Pacioretty and Simmons. I think he's at about just over 5. So that one is a little bit harder to get done. But I think he also has term. I think he's got about 2 years left. So, you know, it's tough. I mean, I can make a case for all of them, honestly. So I'm not rambling here. I'd probably pick Wayne Simmons.
So I just went and looked at Jeff Skinner because that's the guy that I would want to have. He's got 1 more year. He also has a no move clause. His cap hits a 5.725. He's 26 years old. I think he would deliver a huge offensive. I don't know how you want to put that. Just what's needed in Anaheim. Like he just would bring that to the Ducks, which what we
he's
need.
An injection of offense, right?
That's the word, injection. Exactly. Offensive injection. So he had 24 goals last season, 49 points, 37 goals the season before that, 63 points. We know he could put the puck in the back of the net. And I think, honestly, if he's going to be playing top-line minutes, maybe, you're going to see that go up.
Yeah.
So, and playing with Getzlaf, and this kid's still young. I think Panarin's going to want too much money in the long term. I think that'll be tough to get done. Wayne Simmons has got some miles on him. And I don't like the Habs. I don't care if Pacioretty's American. keep your adopted Canadian. No, I'm kidding. He's a great player, and obviously I think he's going to be too expensive as well.
Yeah, I think that's realistic. I mean, Skinner is the most expensive one right now. And honestly, I'd have to double check this. I actually think all 4 of these guys are UFAs at the end of next season because I believe Pacioretty's deal is up. I know Simmons' deal, I believe, is up too, and Skinner is a UFA, and then, of course, Panarin. So it makes it interesting anyway. You bring in any of these guys that could be a rental if you can't afford to re-sign them. You know Simmons is going to get a raise. You know Pacioretty is. Skinner, maybe. Panarin for sure. So it's I think it's tough for the Ducks to really work that out. We'll have to see. One guy that they were rumored to be on has now gone to the Florida Panthers, and what turned out to be a bigger mess than we all expected was Mike Hoffman leaving the Ottawa Senators for the San Jose Sharks, and then immediately being flipped from the San Jose Sharks to the Florida Panthers to end the dramatic mess that was Mike Hoffman's fiance apparently harassing Erik Karlsson's wife. I mean, what a tire fire in Ottawa right now.
She's a horrible human being if what's said is true, which was been backed by several other of the wives and girlfriends from other Ottawa Senators players that it seems totally likely she would say all those things. I don't want to get too much into that, but what I do want to touch on is now that all this has happened and Mike Hoffman's got this fiance or girlfriend that has all this baggage, and it's hard for me to believe that he knew nothing of it. So what kind of cancer does that bring into a locker room at the next place he goes? I was stoked that he was on the Ducks' radar. Now I'm glad they didn't pick him up, just because of what that does to a locker room. Totally affects on ice stuff and causes all kinds of problems, unwanted media attention. So I don't think he has 1 more year left on his contract. I'm very curious to see what happens to Mike Hoffman after next season. I mean, especially if he doesn't split from this chick.
Yeah, I mean, they knew about this. That's the thing. It's not like it just came up. Like the rumors came out. Like they knew about this all year, and they had offers at the deadline, and they didn't trade him. And now they got nothing for him. They literally got Bodker, Doherty or whatever, and a pick. And then they ended up, I think, trading one of those picks. I don't know. They didn't get anything. San Jose ended up getting more from Mike Hoffman than Ottawa got from Mike Hoffman, which is insane. Yeah, I mean, you deal him at the deadline if you got good offers. You know, Dorian's excuse was they liked the chemistry he had with Duchesne. Well, if you knew that this was going on, and you knew eventually down the road his excuse the other day was that we couldn't have this happening in our dressing room. Well, what changed? I mean, this was all still going on. Now Anderson wants out. Carlson probably still wants out. I don't see how you hold on to Duchesne. They kept the 4th overall pick, and now Colorado owns their first-round pick next year. I mean, we all made fun of the Oilers for a long time because of the mess that was going on there. Vancouver for a bit, but this is worse than all of them, I think. This is just insane, the stuff that's happening there.
It's awful, man. They need to do something. I don't think it's easy to change this. It's not going to be overnight, but I think that management team needs to be fired. There was the assistant general manager or another person got in trouble for sexually harassing a shuttle driver.
Manager, yeah.
So he's in trouble. Then you have this stuff with the players. You have Melnick talking about, the way he runs this business is kind of like running a grocery store or a restaurant. And then saying he's going to move the team before their outdoor game. There's so much drama with the Ottawa Senators, and I don't think anyone wants to play there anymore. I know Craig Anderson, the goaltender, rumors of him going to the Islanders. I can't blame him now that Trotz is there with Lou Lamoriello, and if they're able to get Tavares signed, I mean, things could turn around there. But I don't know, man. If you're Ottawa, you got to burn it down and start over somewhere because, I mean, this is terrible.
Yeah, I don't know what they do. I mean, Brady Tkachuk is now their centerpiece in that organization. They've got some good prospects in Colin White, Thomas Chabot, but it's a mess. And I don't want to turn this into a Ottawa Senators or rip on the Ottawa Senators.
Nah, let's move on back to Duck stuff.
But yeah, it's insane. So we look at the next topic we had lined up here. The cap is now actually up to $79.5 million. That provides the Ducks a little bit more room to get Montour, Richie, Cash signed, maybe bring in some from free agents, possibly work that into acquiring a player through trade. But I think a lot of teams are happy, and we saw Murray's comments in Eric Stevens' article that he said a lot of GMs are happy and surprised that the cap has gone up that much.
I heard that some were kind of irritated that it didn't go all the way up as high as it go because players didn't want to use the inflator to take more money out of their checks.
I think they're mad because they knew it could have gone up more. So then, when you're like, oh yeah, we're happy it's up to 79.5, but then you find out your paycheck went up, so you're happy, but then you're like, oh well, it could have gone up to this, but these guys did that, and you're like, oh well, now we could have had that. So I think that's why they're upset. But I think they're all happy that it's up and it's up to 79.5.
I mean, stop giving out gigantic contracts to crappy players on your roster and then giving them no move clauses. I'm not talking to you or anything, Bob Murray. Just saying. I mean, it gives the Ducks
and let it give them a piece of your mind.
Oh yeah, I'll be actually. I mean, I would go the other way with it. I'm the kind of guy. If that's the case, I'm going to see him again. I gotta promote myself as being a part of his vision and try to work my way into an assistant junior GM role.
AGM.
So yeah. So figure that out.
There's an assistant coaching hole now. You can get in there.
Oh yeah, Steve Kovalchuk got fired. So there's a revolving door with assistant coaches in Anaheim. I mean, looking at that, I guess you got to kind of point to the power play fizzling out, right? It didn't do what it was supposed to.
Being on the hot seat and just him on the hot seat. I mean, I don't think this was Connor Walchuk. I don't think was a Randy Carlyle hiring because he was already there and they brought him in after Paul McLean was gone, and then that didn't work out. So and now you've just got pretty much all of Dallas Eakins guys just surrounding Randy Carlyle, so it's like, well, I mean, the writing's on the wall. If he doesn't do well, and I think he has to do extremely well for him to come back, they'll just be like, yeah, we're not bringing you back. The same thing that, maybe not the same thing, but essentially what happened to Barry Trotz in Washington, where his contract was up, they didn't want to pay it, so they let him walk. I mean, the Ducks don't have to worry about firing him necessarily next year. They can just let him go because his contract's up.
Yeah, and I think they're going to. There was some rumor about Barry Trotz coming to Anaheim, and I was like, you guys are high. I don't know what you're smoking, but the Ducks aren't going to give a guy $5 million to coach this team.
Yeah.
Just not going to happen. It'd be great if he could come over here, but he didn't have any intent on going there. He kind of felt like he knew where he was going before the season was over. But yeah, I really feel like, the offense was lacking. And honestly, the special teams just kind of took a huge dip, right? I mean, from what they were being number one when oh my gosh, who am I thinking of? I can't think of his name right now. This is embarrassing. But when Bruce Boudreau was here, right?
Yeah.
We had the first overall power play, first overall penalty